When Martin Luther King was assassinated, Mr. Nixon was faced with the challenge of determining the proper way for him to show his respect to Dr. King and to the family without appearing to be political. It was a presidential year, and he did not want it appearing that he had somehow acted inappropriately. What he came up with was the idea of going down and visiting with Mrs. King privately, and therefore avoiding going to the formal services. He took a jet out of Westchester Airport. I happened to be with him. We went down to Atlanta. We were met in Atlanta by Nick Rui, our advance man, who had arranged for a private car and had made arrangements with the King family for us to visit the home. When we arrived at the home, and one of the first impressions I had was the fact that there was no one on the streets. It was very quiet, very almost eerily quiet. We walked up the steps to the front porch, a screened-in porch, and the children of Dr. King were there. They greeted Mr. Nixon. We were then taken down a central hallway to the master bedroom, which was at the back of the home. On the bed was laying out was Mrs. King, propped up by pillows. Mr. Nixon immediately went over to the bed, took her hand, and he started talking to her. And at the same time, someone brought up a chair. He sat in the chair and held her hand. I went back out to the front porch and talked to the King children. I think the oldest one at that time was 10 years old, so these were 4 little kids, basically. After about 15 minutes, Mr. Nixon came out. He had his picture taken in with Mrs. King, and that was evidently by a family photographer, family-sanctioned photographer who was taking pictures throughout the whole weekend and the funeral period. Mr. Nixon on the front porch talked with the children, talked about their dad, talked about when he met him back in the late 50s in Africa. After maybe another 10 or 15 minutes on the porch, we got in the car and went over to Martin Luther King Sr.'s home.